Hey guys, and welcome back to the Midlife Awakening. My name is Odelia and I'm your host. I'm so grateful that you're here. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. I've missed you. And if you're joining me for the first time, I'm really glad you found your way here. This is a podcast about transformation for women who are waking up to who they really are while navigating everything that comes with midlife. Today, we're diving into a conversation that so many of us can relate to: the messy, painful, and ultimately transformative journey of heartbreak and healing. Today's guest is Miranda Roos, South African-born lawyer turned award-winning maternity and newborn photographer, writer, and emotional alchemist. She brings a sharp legal mind, a tender heart, and a cheeky sense of humor to everything she does. Miranda lives in southwest London with her two sons, and her debut book, The Empty Drawer, is a raw breakup survival guide that grew out of her own notes written on her phone in the depths of heartbreak. In this episode, Miranda opens up about what it really takes to rebuild yourself after loss, whether it's the death of someone you love or the unraveling of a relationship that once felt like home. She shares openly about attachment wounds, self-abandonment, and what it means to sit with your pain instead of rushing past it. What makes Miranda's story so powerful is that she doesn't just share the polished after picture. She takes us into the messy middle, where real healing happens, between school runs, grief triggers, and everyday life. By the end of this conversation, I hope you'll take away that healing doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. Grief isn't something to get over, but something we learn to carry with more grace. Insecure attachment doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've loved deeply, often in the places that couldn't hold you safely. And that writing, even if it's in the notes app on your phone, can be a quiet act of rebellion and self-reclamation. So let's dive in. Here's my conversation with Miranda Roos. So, Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. It's really great to have you. So I'd love to start off by asking, what inspired you to begin writing notes on your phone during such a painful breakup?
So I think for me, it was a way of putting all that I'd learned in therapy in the last 5 years into practice. So my previous breakup, I flipped completely from anxious to avoidant and anxious, and I had these, I think about a month where I'd literally messaged the guy almost every day, and I completely lost all self-respect, and then put myself into therapy because I knew at that point something was wrong. I was like, I can feel something is not right in my body. Went to therapy, and this is the first breakup I'd had since the therapy. And I calmed myself, and I thought, you know what, you know what to do, and you're not doing it just for the sake of, like before people would go, oh, you've got to do no contact if you want to get the guy back. And I was literally for the first time doing no contact, not to get the guy back, but for my own peace. And it felt completely different. Something inside me had shifted. And part of that was writing notes on my phone. I mean, you know what it's like being a mom on the go. I'd love to have a nice journal and, light candles and things at night and spend time journaling, but that's not a luxury we have. So I would sit, while waiting for pickup, kids and one at football or whatever, I'd sit in the car and I'd just pour all of my thoughts that I was processing that day into my notes on my phone, and I'd close it and open it up when I got a chance again. And that's how it happened. And it was just me processing instead of talking to a therapist. I suppose I put everything down in my phone.
Okay. And at what point did that start feeling like something bigger, like this could be a book?
I don't think, for me, it wasn't ever meant to be a book. And I was having dinner with a friend, I don't know, about a month later, and I was telling her about it. And she'd actually written books. She writes children's books, and also a busy mom on the go. And she'd done it on her phone. And she said, "But, how many words have you got?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't counted." So I did a quick word count, and I think it was on 11,000 words. And she said, "That's quite long. You should, try and puff it up a little bit and then publish it." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about it." But I sat with it for a while, and I thought, you know what? I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. and you haven't put all of these notes, documented it all, because it wasn't like I was documenting it. I was almost writing a story to myself, journaling. And I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So I thought, you know what, maybe there is a reason, a bigger reason why I've done this on my phone, and it's all come together. So I sat with it, and then I think about a week later, I was taking my kids on holiday. It was Easter time, and I pondered it a little bit more, and then I started kind of panel beating my notes, going over them and kind of panel beating them to make it more story-like. And at that point, I think I got to about 15,000, and I thought I could make it into a book. And on the way home, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And it was quite a scary thing to do that moment you hit publish on the KDP thing, because you're putting everything out for everybody to read, and there's judgments, and there's, but I thought if my words could then be a lighthouse to someone else who's going through this, who maybe hasn't had as much knowledge or work, they haven't done as much work on themselves with attachment theories, and if that is going to be a lighthouse to someone else in their storm, to lead them in the direction to heal themselves, then it's worth doing that. So that's why I did it.
I mean, I loved your book. It was raw, it was honest, and it was really, I felt like, as someone who's gone through heartbreak myself, I really felt like I could resonate with the words on the pages. Like it was like you were speaking to what I was feeling. And I really loved how you broke it up into, this is how you're going to feel on day one. Okay, it's a week later. Now this is how you're going to feel. But don't, you're going to want to reach out, but don't reach out, stay strong. And it's really like having this little coach in your hands saying, yeah, I know you're feeling this way, but you've got to push through, and you're going to come out at the other end being a better version of yourself.
Heartbreak visits us all, though, at some point in our life. Yeah. And whether that's with, a boyfriend dumping us, or, a bigger loss as in a death, that's still heartbreak. And I think whether it's a boyfriend that you can then reach out to, or you force yourself to go no contact, or a death, it's still the same. You're still going to have those first days where you literally feel like you on autopilot, and you don't know what you're doing, and then gets a little bit clearer, and you start doing the things you have to, and then I guess the fog lifts at some point, and you go, okay, I'm through the worst of it, and I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you share in the book about losing your sister and how that had a big impact on how you formed attachments later in life, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. So can you tell us more about that for people that might not understand what attachment theory is?
So I think it goes probably even further back than my sister. I think just my sister, looking back now, my sister makes me aware of the fact that we had attachment styles. So if I look back, my sister, obviously chose the abusive partner that she chose as a result of her attachment. I ended up with an emotionally abusive husband, and subsequently have been in many relationships where I have bent myself like an absolute pretzel to be loved and get love from this person, and you just keep trying harder and harder, and you people please, and if I just do this, they'll love me, and sometimes it's not that. And I think my sister, if I look back now, obviously she didn't know, we didn't know about attachment styles and things back in the 90s. It was just all foreign therapy and stuff like that. But looking back now, if I were to say about attachment styles, I think it all adds up, and it's all kind of a stepping stone onto how you are and how you love somebody, what love is to you, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and how you respond to that love, right? And
absolutely.
And so where did you first learn about attachment theory? Was it in therapy that you first learned about it? And what did you find that was your attachment style?
So when I did therapy after my breakup, which I think was in 2021, I did therapy, and it was a lovely South African therapist. She was, very diplomatic, and she gave me this book to read, which I audibled because I on the go, and it was called The Emotionally Absent Mother. And I remember being on a walk one day, listening to it and thinking, like, wow, this is me. I have and she talks about how your attachment forms, basically. And the book says, that essentially, even in womb, you are aware of how your mother is responding to you and how she feels about you, and if she's cold or if she's warm towards you. And it just hit me like this huge epiphany, and I was like, wow, I have an insecure attachment. And I said that to her at the next session. I said, I just started listening to this book and I think I have an insecure attachment. And she just sat there and she said, yes, really, tell me more. And I looked at her, and it was one of those video calls because of COVID. And I said to her, Anne-Marie, did you know about this? And she said, yes, sweetie, it was so obvious. And I was like, what? How have I got to 40 odd years old and I never knew it was me? That was the problem. I mean, I'm not saying I'm obviously the cause of the demise of all of my relationships, but I'm the problem in that I chose people that were unhealthy. And I think, from there, it just obviously became this obsessive thing that for me I had to fix because I knew there was a problem. And I still remember the first session I'd done with her. I said, I know that there is a problem. This is my dad, my mom, and my sister ended up with an abusive man. I ended up with an abusive husband, and my brother is literally my father. And I said, so I know there's the problem, but I just need, just tell me what to do to fix it. And that's what we did. So we walked through it and unpacked all the issues that had led me to believe what love was, what success was. Because she said, at the moment, you're wearing everybody else's hat on what the definition of love is, what you have to do to be loved and lovable. And she said, that's not yours. So if you unpack what that means to you, taking all these other party hats that you're wearing off, what does it mean to you? What does success mean to you? And then for the first time, you actually become aware of what it is and what it means. And it's an eye opener, because I think when you see what that is and what you need, then you can choose a partner from that base. And it's going to be a healthier partner, isn't it? Because I'm not by any means standing waving a flag at the top of the hill going, I'm healed. I know I'm not. I've still got a lot of issues. But I think I'm a lot healthier now than I was 10 years ago or 5 years ago before I found the therapist.
Yeah. And that awareness, that makes the difference, I think, at the end of the day, to know, to understand, to see those patterns in yourself and to be like, that's where that stems from. That's why I'm doing that. And this is how did you come about like interrupting those patterns? What was that experience like?
Well, I think writing notes on my phone was, because previously I would have done what I'd done before, which was message him and beg him to come back and, please take me back. What do I need to do to, how much more do I need to do to make you love me and stay? And I think that's, this immense fear of abandonment, for example, in my case. Mm-hmm. And you just, you're rewiring your brain, because your brain is wired that way to try and survive, I guess. So for me, writing notes on my phone and reassuring myself that I was good enough, what I was asking wasn't unreasonable, and what I needed was not unreasonable, was breaking the pattern, even, as hard as it was doing that at the time.
And at what point was there a turning point that came, like after the breakup and you forcing yourself, I'm not going to get into contact with him. I'm going to rather do this journaling. Did you feel there was a turning point where you went from sort of surviving the breakup to now I'm actually healing, not just from this breakup, but from this attachment style?
100%, yes. So like in the breakup during COVID, I literally couldn't even see myself going a day without speaking to this man. It was like, for 2 or 3 years that I'd been with him, I'd spoken to him every day. I'd heard from him every day. I'd shared everything with him. And with this breakup, the most recent one that I wrote the book about, the moment I got through the first couple of days, and I reassured myself, yes, you feel terrible, but you're not going to die. It's not great, but you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. I've got you. You're going to be okay. And, just breaking that slowly. And I think the more you do that, the more you don't abandon yourself to chase somebody else, to get that love from somebody else, is you're giving that love to yourself, right? And that is when you start to feel it. And, I'm no longer forcing myself, white knuckling through no contact. I'm doing it because I deserve what I want and I deserve what I need. And I am lovable, and I'm lovable just the way I am. I don't need to chase somebody, because if they don't see it, they're not my people.
And isn't it so empowering when you get to that point of self-love where you're like, because everybody talks about self-love, you should love yourself, but to actually start practicing that and to actually start feeling it within yourself is something completely transformative and empowering as a woman, I think. To look at a situation and say, I deserve better than this. I deserve more than this. This is not good enough for me. I think that's quite empowering for a woman.
I mean, it makes me feel invincible. I could literally take on the world, at that time. And that's why I had the courage to hit publish. And, as scary as it was, I thought, you know what, you can't get me. I'm invincible. I've got my own back, and whatever's meant for me will find me. And it's clearly, if it's not him, if he's not here, he's not my person. It's no good trying to fictionalize or have a fantasy about a person and being the one. They're not the one. If they're not here with me, choosing me, and I'm not choosing them, it's not meant to be. As sad as it is, you think, and I think, sometimes you have it in your head, this is the one and he's perfect, but it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And the part of there's no love that's more powerful than the love that you have for yourself, and that should always come first. And the partner's not there to complete you, they're just there to add to your life, like the cherry on the cake, you could say it in that way. But you got to start with yourself first. And I think a lot of us in midlife only start coming to this realization. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Absolutely, because for our whole lives we've put everybody else in front of us.
Yeah.
We're taught, I think, as girls, I don't know if it's a South African thing, but as a girl, you look after the house, you cook, you clean, you look after your man, and then you get married, then you have children, and suddenly, I mean, I remember having a moment after having my firstborn, in 2008, we moved to the Netherlands 6 months later, and my cats arrived from South Africa. And I remember having this moment where I'm thinking, I'm literally probably number 408 on my list of important things to do, after my husband, my child, my 2 cats, cleaning the house, cooking the food. And then at the end of the day, if I have maybe 3 minutes, that's what I get. I sit in bed, and then I'm so tired and wired from doing and looking after everyone else and everything else. I just want to sit on my phone and doom scroll. And that's not self-love. You think, okay, well, I've got 5 minutes or whatever it is to myself. That's not giving yourself love. That's literally giving yourself scrapings from the bottom of the barrel.
Absolutely.
And that's what we do. So we go through our whole life. And I think then we do get to a point where we're in our 40s and we go, suddenly, enough. And we go, to our children, they're a little bit older, and you go, no, I'm not going to wait on you. If you eat a meal, then you can put your own dish in the dishwasher, and you can help me cook some nights, and you can help me bring your washing down and put it in the washing machine, and sometimes do things for me, because we also need people that help us and do things for us.
And we tend to not ask for help because we were like, we can do it. We don't. We're in the center. We need to be everything to everyone, but we do need help, and it is okay to ask for that help. So in writing this book, you can definitely say that you sort of found your self-love and you've been on this journey. And since then, how has your relationship with yourself continued to shift? Because my own experience with self-love is that it is something that needs to be continuously worked on, like any other relationship. You can't have this like burst of, yes, I love myself, I deserve better, and then forget about yourself and not, cultivate that relationship.
100%. It's like any friendship. And I think, if you had a friend that you neglected and you only gave them a little 5 minutes here or there once a month, they're not going to want to be friends with you. And I think, like I said, the more you don't abandon yourself, the more safe you actually feel with yourself, and that is self-love, that being there. And it's just making little time for yourself every day, doing things that are important for you. And it's not just I'm going to have a nice bubble bath or something. It's looking after yourself from the inside, whether that's emotionally, mentally, listening to podcasts, fitness, eating well, fueling your body. Those are all acts of self-love, because I can tell you the number of times that I've just had toast with cheese on it melted in the microwave because I'm too tired to feed myself at the end of fighting with 2 toddlers to eat their food. And now, even if it means meal prepping for myself on a Sunday, I will meal prep my meals so that I know no matter how busy I am, I can grab one of my meal preps and I've got something healthy to eat. And that's important, because if you're not looking after yourself from a holistic point of view, that relationship with yourself is just going to fizzle out. You can't keep taking and taking and taking and giving to everyone else, and not putting anything back in your own cup.
Absolutely. And tell me, so what advice would you give to someone who's going through a heartbreak right now and who, hasn't done the therapy, doesn't know anything about attachment styles? What would be something you'd say to them today?
I would say just focus on now, and that's have a breath, have a sip of water, go and have a walk. Just focus on now. You don't have to worry about the whole journey. You don't have to worry about the whole 30 days. Just focus on now and getting through this moment, because oftentimes when you're in that panicked, anxious state, it is a feeling, and if you allow the feeling to flow through your body, is actually when it's going to pass. It's like any kind of craving, I guess. You have a craving when you're a smoker, you sit with it, and then it'll pass. It's not going to get worse and worse and worse. So sit with it and be in the moment. And that doing something physically, like drinking some water or having your feet on the ground moving, is going to bring you back to the present. Because I think a lot of the time when we are anxious, it's because we are forward thinking. We're panicking about what's going to happen in 30 days, no contact, but if you just focus on now, before you know it, the 30 days is over, the 60 days, a year is later, you're living your best life, and you don't even care if he's reaching out and messaging you anymore.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you said that. I know that's probably one of the most important things that I learned when I went to therapy, is that we don't want to feel the emotions, like just want to rush past it. We don't want to feel it, like something bad's going to happen if I let myself feel this emotion. But if you just let your body just let it wash over you, it passes pretty quickly, and then you can start moving on with your life, and then you don't have to be scared of this feeling, this impending doom of this, these bad feelings that you might be having, the anxiety, depression, whatever it is. So I'm really glad that you reiterated that, because that was a big lesson for me, is to let your body feel what it needs to feel, because that's the only way through, really, to the other side.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
More initially, I think, but once you get used to that feeling of sitting with it and going, actually, this is what I'm feeling. And I've become so much more in tune with my body that, for the first time when I was having this breakup now, I could actually feel the heartbreak in my body, like the pain was a physical feeling in my body and my stomach, versus previously when I just kind of pushed through it and white knuckled through it, and I'd go on the treadmill and just, run and run and run just to keep myself busy, because when you're on the treadmill and you're running super fast, your brain can't work, right? You're just trying to survive the next kilometer or next 100 meters. Exactly. So for me, it was different, but it's a healthier way to be.
Absolutely. And did sharing your story publicly in the book, did that bring you a deeper sense of closure?
I wouldn't say about closure, because I think by the time I published the book, I already had put, it's almost like I'd closed that part of my life, my chapter. But it gave me a sense of, if I can help a greater purpose, I think, is probably a better way. I suddenly had this bigger purpose that I wanted to help people. And, like I say, maybe the way that I was guided to do it was to make notes on my phone, then publish it, and then make a journal that went with it, because it all kind of fell in together and into itself. So after doing the book, I then put together the journal, which I thought, if writing on my phone helped me, and I've never even been a new age person that journals. I've never had a journal. I've had loads of scrapbooks and I write loads of notes and stuff. But I thought if writing notes on my phone helped me, maybe the act of writing in a breakup journal would help someone else. And I did that. And I then took photos that I'd done when I did newborn photography. I'd done like a personal project taking photos of sleeping animals and puppies and kittens. And I put all of those images in it as well to make it softer. And I thought, it's just all these things in my life have come together and this is what it's culminated in. So not closure, just more like a greater purpose, I think.
Okay. And how has hearing from your readers who've connected with your book and your story, and it's changed the way that they see their own heartbreak, how has that impacted you?
Makes it feel really worthwhile for me. So reading the reviews, there's a couple of reviews on Goodreads and Amazon, and people saying this is exactly what I needed. After 9 months of stop-start with my ex, I've finally, and I thought I was doing everything wrong, and I finally realized that I've done the right things, and reading this book has helped me see that. And it's so, I guess, rewarding in some way just to have that bit of validation to go, what you did was right, and you're on the right path.
Yeah. And what's the one message you hope your readers and my listeners carry with them from your story?
I think that just because you are heartbroken doesn't mean you're broken, and you are building hopefully a better version of yourself. And sometimes you take those broken parts, as hard as it is, and you put them all together and you get something even better.
Amazing. And what would be the one thing you would tell a younger version of yourself before all the heartbreaks and, when she's just starting out on her journey to love and partnerships?
Have some self-respect and dignity, because I think if I'd had that, I don't think I would have tasted the love that I did all of those years. I don't think I would have stayed and tolerated all of that if I'd actually realized, and self-worth, because I think if you realize your worth and then you think, well, why am I actually tolerating this horrible treatment from these people? Why am I literally accepting crumbs? I think the way my therapist put it was, she said, Miranda, you're putting up this whole banquet feast for everybody, and then you're sitting at a table and you're not even eating. And, I think we just accept that we give and give and give of ourselves and we get nothing in return, and that's okay. Just a little flash of light here or there of love, and that'll be enough to keep me going, like a little house plant. But it's not. I don't want to be a little house plant. I want to, thrive and flower and have all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. So yeah, finally, so where can people find your book? How can they connect with you? Because you've also got a journal. Excuse me. So how can people find out more about your book? I will put links in the show notes. So if people want to get the book, they can head out. I think it's available on Amazon, right? On Kindle.
It's on Amazon and Kindle. And I've just started a TikTok shop, which I haven't done anything with because it was summer holidays and I've been a little bit busy. I've got the book and the original breakup journal, and I've subsequently done some teenage journals for younger girls, also just to kind of what I think would have benefited me 40 years ago or 30 years ago, that would have helped me see that I was worthy just as I am. So I did these journals for teenage girls. I have boys myself, but I want young girls to know that they don't have to, they don't have to accept scraps. They are worthy. And it's not about going around going, I'm a queen and I need this treatment and that treatment. It's really believing in yourself that you are worthy.
Especially at that age, I think, when you're young and you're a teenager and you're so in love, and it's important. I think it's an important message to get out to the younger girls that, because you can save them a lifetime of heartbreak and disappointment, and and we're sold the story about finding the man and getting married and having this wonderful life, and the reality is very different, isn't it? So it's really good for girls to tap into their self-worth when they're young and to already
I think
know what they're going to accept and what they won't accept.
the sad part is that I think only, 75% of the population are insecurely attached. And what that means is if I'm insecurely attached, I'm passing that on to my children. So if a mom is insecurely attached or anxious and believes that she needs to do certain things to be loved, that's what she's passing on to her children. And it's not her fault, but that's just, how it goes. That's how generational trauma comes.
Yeah.
And my thinking is if I can try and give them, again, at that age, some kind of lighthouse in the storm to go, you are enough. You don't have to be what your generations before you are. You can be more.
Absolutely. And I think it's it's not something that's taught in schools, which is unfortunate, about, attachment theories and self-growth and all these topics we've been talking about today, which is unfortunate. But if there is a way that we can get the message out to the younger girls, I mean, I think that is some good work to be doing in the world. Absolutely. So Miranda, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Miranda's book, Empty Drawer, is available on Amazon. I'll put everything into the show notes if you'd like to get a copy and read the book. It's an amazing book. As she's mentioned, there's journals also available. So yeah, everything's down below. Thank you so much
Thank you
for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation with Miranda Roos. If you're moving through heartbreak right now, remember Miranda's message. Heartbroken doesn't mean broken. This is a season, not your identity. Breathe, be here now, and keep choosing yourself. You'll find links to Miranda's book, The Empty Drawer, her breakup journal, and where to connect with her all in the show notes. If today's episode supported you, please follow the show, tap the star to leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs a lighthouse in their storm. It truly helps more midlife women find this space. And it's a true labor of love for me to bring this to you every single week. So if you could share it, this is what will keep the momentum going. Now, if you want more gentle support between episodes, join my Substack, The Midlife Awakening, and get my freebie, 5 journal prompts to start your midlife awakening. The link is in the show notes. You can also come say hi on Instagram and let me know your biggest takeaway from today's episode. I love hearing your stories. And just a quick reminder before we close, neither Miranda nor I are licensed therapists. This conversation is for educational, inspirational purposes only, and this is not a substitute for professional advice. If you're struggling with your mental health, please reach out to a qualified professional for support. I'll be back next week with another conversation to help you heal, grow, and thrive in midlife. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your heart, and remember, it's never too late to begin again. Bye for now.